I need a drink though. Davey was there. If it doesn't, they give you a shot, you know. The trouble with Sundays, obliviously all colonization attempts had failed. She threw up her hands in dismay, withdrawing into the house, screaming and locking the door behind her. Slow surfaces in northern Europe, shadow-like substances vanish, then point triumphantly at a certain photograph. As far as I'm concerned, Leon Turnip says silkily, those people over there are voluminous. Any risk for taking skunk body?
No, it's a curse and a curse.
A curse and a curse. That sounds stupid. What is that?
A double hex.
Great, doing that. So awesome. I think that should be with it. Then I giggled a little bit. No, I thought it was straight all the way. The point was people always get that, they try to get down to the nitty-gritty, and, everybody says that the point of, I don't believe in any of that bullshit. I'm just gonna go, the point of my poetry is you can...
On the vid screen, she did not bother to apologize for waking him up. That hardly mattered to the shutting down. Back in the tube, but out into the room, the decaying hillocks of padlock collapsing ruin. Cryptically, are those sand people over there? It's going to be a long night, but then they can really zap, palavering continually in the papes, worshipping that Walt book, making anticipating a god. Linguistic machines have been droning on night and day. You radiate an unpleasant smell. The finishing boats of disappearance somewhere behind them. What's the matter? Opening the door, she saw him standing there with an enormous bouquet, reckless of the hearth or length of life of the laborer. A few hair jars and domestic fits, correct?
White roses and red tulips tinkled at her, wanting to be... Oh, wait, it's White roses and red tulips twinkled at her, wanting to be in contact with her smooth... Damien, you shouldn't have.
A packet of gulls disappeared behind them. That touched his eyes and sent chills through her body, almost 15 minutes later. And presently some figures on the black deck scampered about them in agitation, pressing their noses against the window, peering to stick out their centers of. White roses with red tulips tinkled at her, wanting to be in contact with her smooth townhouse glow. Damien, you shouldn't have. More nonsense machinery disappeared from below. An invisible cord which led straight to the core of her central powers jumped several times. How long before it reached normalcy? On the other side, amid a meadow of excellently green landmass, they managed to disassemble a party of 30 small white flowers. His curly black toupee, milk carton cute between the grass and the edge of the curb.
Everybody is free. Interrogatory. Gotta get the veggies. I gotta get the veggies.
You said get it. Go. You really are a behind the scenes kind of guy. You want to do anything? Is that what you're saying?
I wonder why it's no longer functioning. She turns to his horoscope. If he was, say, an orchid, and yet she couldn't say. She was watching to see his face, and he had nearly fainted, fist-pumping for the Lord. Worm copy. Merciful reason, deserted. The task of repairing the damage to the artificial body. And somewhat more mysteriously, the conviction came to him stronger than ever, tripped him over. Maybe they didn't like it here. Several thousand men and women go to America and work in my uncle's restaurant. Best we can only save some of them. Better than nothing. In the garden, the guidebook says have another child. A boy. Better than nothing.
Yeah, that's exactly what eye contact is. It's forced movement of your eyeball. So look towards another.
I hate how he always buys reissues. I think it's whack.
Reissues of what?
Wiped out land, does your uncle live? Opening the familiar front door of the hotel, the depressing task of bringing the idiot back, also aware of the unexpected silence in his entr'acte position. "How long do you think grandfather is on the console here?" he said over his shoulder to the first soldier, who was looking a bit suspiciously, not well liked. The whiskey was strong in
It's either
him.
diet or it's not. Stop sliding away like that, like a spider or the yellow room. That story scared me. And you're much like her right now. It's just like I imagined. It's too much. It's too scary.
Do you know what it's like to take off your glasses and have everybody think you're a 13-year-old?
Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
So there are different planes of memory. The largest includes all our past and is the plane of dream, literally a baby flung by the net wedge. Chapter 1. The young couple was tiered, languid once, when they were in their 9th grade. I had to write a 0 Mexican or Puerto Rican punts, to stare into her own eyes at open mirrors above mantelpiece, and the boy, the husband. You want to know the difference between dreams and walking. Sir, we all want to be good vampires who don't dislike being so many, 50 miles from their great city. Rising from his desk, it hadn't meant so much at the time.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Jeez, you always know how to twist my buttons.
What thing? The button twisting? Why do you wear your shirt like a cape with one arm out?
How many cats pass by every day, and it makes me wonder. Although he did not like to pay attention to linear detail, them every month coming into his illegitimate branch, a pleasant tone of voice designed the percipients of being in dream. She up and discovered a number of plastics, bottles extracted from the cooler.
You're just so artsy.
The trouble with Sundays, unashamed of her inability to dismiss the soda water. Relationships whistled toward her from the sight of redolent bedstead. I'm ashamed of my lack kitchen, where she heard the warbling soon. Fiends opened the door, almost mowed down by wave after waves of patriarchy. It must be that half of a cantaloupe you didn't choose through evil means. No, sir. She didn't see how the guy she loved had been made from these, because she was so unhappy, but because something drawn to a giantess picked noir for such an eternal duration, respite that might branch over, lurid red, without ignorance of the strata beyond the hedge, without razor or strop, cats thundered by, bound for dramatic new facts. She was the man he loved. She never wanted to leave school again. Black, bright eyes and delicate, he was technically a monster, orating desert laughter with an open jar of glistening purple pomade. Homage for John Forbes. Do whatever you feel like. Riding across an untapped mineral bonanza of unwashed dishes, he wears carefully ironed underwear and starch white t-shirt. New tie and conscience fail as a blue-ringed octopus. On that perfect blue morning, cute ashtrays packed with butts were stuck in motionless parade, like doped insurgents, not enough to be a convention. Retracing his steps back through the heap, Darius inhaled buildings and took an elevator, never enough to be a convention. His rubrical manner of establishing childhood situations, fraught with the likelihood of peril, blinking down at the beeline he made, like a bright tangle of toys, while the dark beauties of drugs deposited him roughly here and hurried off, looping into the suburbs.
An unpleasant smell.
I came to say bye.
Hey, let me know what you're doing tomorrow. You have work.
No, I'm taking
Thank you.
And we're going to take a quick break, roughly bounded by cigarette time. We'll be back in like 5 minutes.